Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Arwin, as ever, joining right in the middle of my intro to distract me, so I have to look across. 10th Man, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Good afternoon.
I should really
And Nathan,
make a proper note
for
of it.
joining right after you started the intro.
Yeah, the second I hit the start button, I see flashing things. Normally it's when the camera cuts to me, so I press the button and then it goes bing bong, not that the audience hears it, and I see you flashing up and I stare across. Every day I'm looking across at the screen. What is that? Is that something broken? No, it's Arwin joining right at the middle of my intro. Thank you very much. Anyway.
I tried to join right before, and then, it's also because your notifications just arrive a little late. So then it's like, oh, he's not live yet. I can get in. And then, oh, no, he actually did start. I just didn't get the notification.
After the death and rebirth of this current computer, which will soon be replaced, hopefully, I've been fiddling and faffing with sound settings that got lost. So I've tweaked them again today. So if anybody can tell me from the live audience if it all sounds nice, it should be a little bit louder, edging my way up in volume. But while we do that, hopefully I'll get a note from somebody in chat to say, yes, it sounds wonderful. Thank you very much. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth? Don't all go at once.
Is Discord around? Can someone in Discord answer that for a change?
Discord's more of a square.
A square.
My son says there's evidence of curvature everywhere, and the horizon is just one of them.
The horizon is an Earth curve. We debunked that in 2020.
Yeah, I know.
Who claims Earth is curving?
People who think they're on a ball, the Western world, the majority thereof.
Well, I've never seen it, and I'm 63 years old.
Hold on. Was John going somewhere with that?
I was just, wondering it, because it seems like all their claims are relying upon a flat Earth for them to claim it's a ball. I just don't know if they understand that it's supposed to be curving if it's a ball.
I mean, if you're measuring it as a ball and you're navigating it as a ball, then obviously it's a ball. And that would be what you would assume would occur if, as they assert, we're on a ball. But we don't measure it as a ball. We don't build on it as a ball. We don't navigate it as a ball. It isn't mapped as a ball. And the ball model came from a flat plane. So, yeah, I totally get your point. I mean, obviously, that's pretty cutting-edge understanding that we're disseminating here, John, in that regard, and we don't expect everybody to be that well-versed with the heliocentric origins, that would be a flat plane, as we are. But it's nice to be disseminating that to an audience, I've got to be honest.
But to be fair, it's like the entire point of the global religion to be so bloated and vast that people don't have a perfect oversight, don't understand everything about it, and trust their alleged superiors about it, who they think understand more about it than they do. It was always meant to be bloated like that and not have perfect oversight.
A very interesting point, Arwin. That perhaps indicates to me that we need to find some authoritarian source that's more preferable to our opponents, if that's what we're desiring to do, convince them that they are incorrect in regards to their source of their current religious belief. That would be heliocentrism. But in the same way we've found that source currently with the elevation angle argument and celestial navigation arguments, and indeed the black swan combined with those, there's got to be, if that is, as we are indeed asserting, the origins of the globe, there will be, because there can't not be, other origins that directly link the required flat Earth to the heliocentric assertion. Now, in the past, what we've had is people saying, here's a load of, I don't know, 1930s, 1940s, I don't know when they were from. No, it'd be later than that, wouldn't it? Maybe 1950s. Freedom of Information requested NASA documents all talking about how they navigate over a flat Earth and how Earth's not moving. It's considered stationary. Stationary, flat, non-rotating navigation, I think, is the title of one of the bloody books. But that sort of authority hasn't been punctuated enough, I feel. And now that we're at the point that we can say, no, there is no way to have a globe unless you've taken your origins from the flat plane, and here's Mr. Authority telling it you. Here's Mr. Haversign saying it to you. Those sources will be out there. As John said a couple of weeks ago, they can't get rid of the flat Earth, or maybe it was me off the back of John's point, because it's part of their origin. You can't kill your own origin.
Well, they try to mask it, so they show you the orthographic views of a flat plane, and then they draw a ball around it, and then hope that you don't see that it's actually you supposed to be at the center of the ball, and just think, oh, look at the ball. Yeah, it's the ball. That's what they're hoping for.
Nathan, there's an image of what Arvin's talking about. I just posted in Master B. Can you go to that?
Sure. Yep.
It would be like Christians outlawing the Torah.
Exactly. No Old Testament, says Christian. What? Well, no, we don't want that. We can't have that. We don't like bits of it.
Well, actually, Christians like it. Anyway, back
just
to
as
my
an
picture.
example.
Just a comment.
The Torah was better. I couldn't do better than that.
Some of them don't want to hear about the Torah. It is true.
Anyway, the picture on the screen before you. There are 3 straight lines here. 2 of them are theoretical. 2 of them are fictitious. Which one is the real? Anyone know?
One of these lines is not like the others. One of these lines is different.
I thought you didn't like music.
I was thinking the same
He's
thing.
got
That's
you
from
there.
that's our electric company.
See, nobody doesn't like music. It's just a lie if they say that.
How is the celestial horizon at the center of the globe?
You know, I know that, John, because the amount of wives or girlfriends of customers that used to come in when I worked in a hi-fi shop as a teenager, and their women, the guys, because it was typically them buying, not always, would say, I don't like music, because they didn't want the husband to spend $1,000 or whatever they were intending to spend with me. And I'd always challenge them too. I'd be like, nobody doesn't like music, and we've got every type of music available. I will find something that you like, because if I can get her to like the music, then the sale's made, because that's the obstacle. He wants to spend $1,000, she doesn't, and she says she doesn't like music, and that's just not true. There's nobody out there, unless you are. There's nobody miserable enough. Even the most miserable person I've ever come across still enjoys music. Your reference to a song is enough of an example. Just glad we tied that up from the pre-show.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's
That was
also
a
miserable
child
music out
song.
there.
Doesn't matter. It's influential on your life.
There's a music for every type of mood out there.
Yeah, even miserable sods.
Can we get back to the point?
Oh yeah, my bad. Sorry, we're doing a live show about flat Earth here. I'm taking it a bit less seriously because I've coaxed the computer into working, and I've got to be honest, it's gone. I shouldn't laugh. It's gone beyond the point where I am almost expecting things to set on fire around me. So the fact that it's working at all, you go past the point of so stressed and nervous about things breaking that you go beyond it to indifference. That's where I'm at. Until the new computer arrives, that's just how I'm going to be. I'm really sorry.
That just reminded me of driving home many times with the fuel gauge on empty and saying, okay, can I go another 10 miles before I get the gas? All nervous about getting home.
Right. Well,
I
I'm
just
in the
did that
position.
this morning.
I'm running on an empty tank and going, you know, I don't care. If it breaks down, that's it. If it sets on fire, I'll just go, yep, that looks about right. Yep, that's what I was expecting.
And by the way, John, that song was from the electric company. It was a skit they did.
But in all seriousness, yes, there's a line at the centre called the celestial horizon. That's where the angle's going to be taken from. Now, they transpose that up to the top and then give you these other geoidal and sensible horizon, i.e. a parallel with the flat plane. That would be the geoidal horizon, if you're going to depict it from the top of this globe burger. Globe burger because it's dissected between two buns where you've got the 90 degrees where it's marked at centre. That's where the actual angle will be derived from and referenced to if you're going to be doing celestial navigation with the circle representative of the sky, i.e. the celestial sphere. There you go. I can be serious.
Okay, hang on. Let's see if you said it right. The only real one, mislabeled, the geoidal, is the visible horizon if your eyes were on the water. So then they take that plane that you're on and they put it and call it a celestial horizon. It didn't start as celestial horizon at the center of a presupposed circle here. It's actually get rid of everything but one of those straight lines, and that's what you're on, as you'll see in a minute. Go to the next slide. So here in this depiction, you've got the sun now. You've got the theoretical horizon at the eye level. Okay, the top one in the previous picture. And then the dotted line is your geoidal, or your eyeball on the water. And they call it the actual horizon if height of eye is 0 minutes, 0 seconds. Then they draw another line that was not on the previous picture and say, but we live on the globe and this is your geometric horizon. This is where the trick comes in. Well, none of this exists, as we know, the black swan. And they don't even show the celestial horizon at the center of the earth in this one. Now, if you go to the last picture, this is reality. This is an elevation angle measurement with a sextant. And there's only one plane that you need to achieve this. There's no celestial equator here. There's no celestial horizon here. Just an elevation angle. This is how it's done. Then they move this thing into 3 spots. They move this at your eye level, and then they move it down to the center of the earth to give you the celestial equator all the way to the imaginary celestial sphere. But there's only one of these, and that's when you get your eyeball on that sea level, and that's where Al-Biruni had to measure his height of the mountain was from sea level, this same plane right here. It's really that simple.
Perfect. My only slight critique is to say that when you said this is reality or words to that effect, but this is the orthographic depiction of how reality would be represented in terms of an elevation angle measurement. But it's still just an orthographic view. Obviously, if we're going to be looking at and talking about horizons on a plane, you just present it with a horizon, right?
Well, when I say reality, I should have been more hyper-specific on this show. I should have learned my lesson by now. When I say reality, I mean this is how a sextant operates. But
this is a depiction of how a sextant would operate.
Correct. Yeah, it's not orthographic because we don't see orthographically. You're right.
Right, and when it comes to the angles that are depicted here, that's what you'd be measuring, elevation angles. And you can't do that unless this sort of greyed out area is a flat surface. And that's exactly what you are and do deal with.
Please, we know what he meant.
Hyperspecificity is what we're all about here.
Wow, you said it right. I was saying it just so you would say that word, and you nailed it.
Hyperspecificity?
Well, it's necessary when our opponents, well, I don't know if they're really our opponents anymore, but the delusional people out there latch on to any word that they can find to try to claim we're wrong.
You mean
It's
the-
kind of necessary.
That's what I was imagining. We're on of like mind today, John, right? Exactly. So what went through my mind as he said it was somebody coming up to us with an orthographic view of any depiction and going, this is how the reality works, right? Saying it exactly like that. This is how the reality works. And they show a curve and all the rest of it. And we go, well, no, we don't see the world that way. We're not working in an orthographic view. And they cut to the clip of 10th Man. This, with what's on screen now, is reality. And they just, you're like, no. He's contextually describing how representative an angle measurement is on a flat plane when drawn in orthographic view. He just didn't say those words. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Yeah, right, 10th. It does seem like I'm being pedantic, but I'm not. Or am I? What's the definition of pedantic?
Well, we are being pedantic, but we're being pedantic for a reason.
Correct.
Yeah, I wasn't. I actually agree with you. I meant it. I speak mostly in big picture viewpoints, just in general, and I get this all the time. Well, you said this, and I said, yeah, but that I wasn't trying to be detailed. I was just so. When I say reality, in my mind, it was a sextant can only measure angles, and angles are two straight lines that meet at a vertex, and so it can never work on a curved baseline. That's when I say reality, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking how someone will twist this orthographic view picture.
Correct. But then we have on screen, it's not Andrew Thomas Young, is it? Is this Andrew Thomas Young?
No, the one I just put up there.
No. What's on screen for you in
Oh yeah,
G+?
no, that is Andrew Thomas Young. Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew Thomas Young is showing you the Begurk refraction response after the Black Swan 2020. And this is why they Begurk refraction at us, because of this very description. Now, in this description, O to H is their bent line to the horizon. Now, what you've just depicted is straight lines with a right angle to the star, or in this case, sun, that you're measuring off a flat plane, because that's the only way to achieve the angle. But then when you cut to, hey, Rufy, yeah, we're talking about you again, aren't we? How's that geometric horizon working out for you? That line between O and G that you don't have? Yeah? You don't have it anymore. Now, the double speak that you presented with from Andrew Thomas Young is put in a box and draws the line of sight to the apparent horizon as the straight line OG. Line of sight, you say? I'm afraid not. Your double speak might slip past your average fundy globe believer, but doesn't slip past me. Because according to this very description, the line of sight to the only one we don't have two horizons is OH. That's your quote, line of sight, but he's drawing a line of sight to the geometric horizon that we can't see in this description. It's the very essence of doublespeak. He's created a second horizon in this diagram if the one we see is at H for horizon. What's G? Well, that's for globe horizon, the one we don't see and will never see and wouldn't be expecting to see. Nobody's expecting to see it. These are all quotes from the globe believers' side. Now, bearing in mind that if you can't see this OG straight line to Earth curve, the geometric physical limitation to your view blocking boats and buildings and having boats fall over the edge of it, then you can't get an angle from it. How's that geometric horizon working out for you there, Rufy? Infinite over R, you say, back in 2020. That's a shame because it doesn't match up with any of the distances on a map if you're using anything other than the geometry of Earth you relinquished when you bent the line from O to H. You don't have any straight lines. And you need them because they need to match up with the maps and your navigation, and they won't, as Brian's been recently pointing out. And you can't even create an angle if your line from O to H is bent, and you haven't got a baseline that's straight if S to G and S to H is also bent. So celestial navigation simply does not and cannot work on a sphere. It's screwed.
Yeah, they're missing.
Sunday. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they're missing the parallel line that starts at S and is parallel to the O dotted line. They're missing that in this depiction.
That's correct. Let's just go back to that diagram that we had up first from 10th man, just to distinguish what a correction for actual dip would look like. So we've got the geoidal horizon and the sensible horizon. And when you're drawing it out, when you're comparing it to any other curve maths calculator, they'll have surface level written where it's got the line for geoidal horizon. But that aside, what you're actually doing is a correction between these two parallel lines if you're doing dip. Now that's been hijacked by way of Biruni and terrestrial and celestial refractions to create a tangent point. That's O to G in this diagram on screen for you guys in G+. Well, you need that straight line. It's the essence of the geometry. If you look from G, although it's cut off my diagram, this is what derives your R value. This is your Al-Biruni triangle from up a mountain. Yeah, you need this straight line because that's where you're going to get R. You can't have it bent, otherwise it won't give you the angle, because there's a right angle here in Al-Biruni's method. Yeah, well, you need a straight line for that too. And the maps all match up with it. So you are all screwed if you think that celestial navigation works in any way, shape, or form on a globe. It can't and doesn't, from the very essence of the first measurement. Further to that, any measurement you guys take hasn't got a straight line attached to it. What is it, no Atmo Day? How's that geometric horizon working out for you?
Now we've shown with plenty of citations, and John has reiterated many times, that the dip, the angle of depression, is between the eye line and the visual horizon, which is the flat plane we live on. And that is dip. It's between two lines that are parallel. Now, if you go to this last picture that I posted.
Wow, they're still done.
So in this last picture that you see in Master V, measuring zenith angle, look what they do here. So they draw the circle because that's the number one way to fool people and say it's a sphere, and they do it orthographically. They put the first one, they put the level at sea level and hang a plumb bob, which defines vertical, but that's a straight line. You can't use the thing drawn underneath it because the angle cannot work. What's that syntax error that Rob Durham's CAD thing said? And then the second picture shows the eye line theoretical reference plane. Okay, well, we've already discussed that. And between that one and the first one is dip. But they want to tell you dip is something different. If you look at the third one, here, this guy, and the third one is OG. He's thinking he's looking over a curve. Now, no one alive sees anything like this. No one sees looking over a curve. You just see the horizon. And it says, bring your eye to the water so that it's a right angle. So this picture is a lie. You can't get, if you brought your eye in that third picture here to the water, you wouldn't get a right angle. So you know they're already lying.
Excellent. Let's move on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, you need a radial value, as John says.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Well, back to the movement. My son does say that the movement is so slight that you won't feel it.
Okay, but we'd be able to detect something, i.e. not being able to feel it would still mean we could measure that which he says we can't feel. It's like, okay, is not feeling it proving it's occurring? No.
Well, if you were a sniper and you were going to actually put this to the test, I believe using a certain grain size cartridge, you would have to adjust for 1 second 750 miles. So that means you'd have to, if it took the bullet 1 second to reach the target, say you figured out how long that would, what distance that would be, say a mile even. Say you had a shot a mile out and it'd take 1 second for this particular cartridge with particular amount of gunpowder in it for that bullet to reach that target. 1 second. The Earth would have moved 750 miles at this particular location on their ball. So you got to aim.
That doesn't sound right. I don't think so.
Well, I'll go dig it up. It's pretty fast.
Yeah, 1,000 miles
It's
an hour.
18.5.
Go on, John.
18.5 miles per second.
Distance
around the sun. There's other movements as well. So I think
your maths is just wrong.
You know.
It's not 750 miles it would move in 1 second, according to the Globe Earth claim. The fact remains, regardless of how the math stacks up of how far it would move, the claim is that it'll move underneath the bullet. And if Earth turns underneath the bullet, at whatever rate is claimed, then Earth turns underneath bullets and aeroplanes and helicopters and drones and hot air balloons and anything else that leaves the ground. And it doesn't. They use a bullet because it's only in this air for a fraction of a second. Same reason Neil deGrasse Tyson uses a football, because it's only in the air for a couple of seconds. So the long-term consequences of leaving the ground and having the ground turn beneath the football or beneath the bullet aren't exaggerated. But then we just go, but if Earth's turning under a football and Earth's turning under a bullet, then Earth's turning underneath an aeroplane for us to observe this Coriolis effect you say we've got. Well, that would shorten the flight time. That would mean a continent would come to the hot air balloon as it hovered in the air, because the ground's turning underneath it as it hovers. But that we don't observe that effect. That simply doesn't happen, and your only examples are ones that are in the air for 2 seconds. The thing that's going to show that effect is an aeroplane, when you're delighted to arrive in an hour and a half when you're travelling from Charlotte, North Carolina, to Los Angeles. You're travelling west, and what do you know, Earth's turning underneath, so it's only going to take an hour and a half. Said nobody ever, because it's a 4.5 hour flight, regardless of which direction you travel, because Earth is not turning underneath bullets, or aeroplanes, or hot air balloons, or drones, or you if you jump up and down. We don't observe Coriolis effect as we turn underneath anything, because we're not turning underneath anything. At all, ever.
When I tell my son that if you just rise in a helicopter, the continent will come to you, he says, oh, that's just ridiculous. Isn't it though? It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But this is what would happen.
Well, it's the same effect as would happen on a roundabout if you've got a drone. So you sat on a drone and you've got sat on a roundabout with a drone in your lap. You've got the control in one hand and the drone in the other. And as you're spinning on the roundabout, you push the up stick on the drone. It leaves your hand and hovers just above where it left. But you continue to rotate underneath. Now, you let go of the stick so it stays where it is relatively in space. Wind, ignoring all wind. It's a perfectly calm day and it just hovers. But you continue to move underneath the drone. Now, what you see of the drone is it looking like it's curving towards you as you turn underneath it. Now, that looking like it's curving towards you is Coriolis effect. A non-inertial turning platform, the roundabout, and an inertial frame of reference with the object being observed travelling in, the drone. And the not actual deflection observed from the turning reference frame. So you turning underneath the drone, seeing it seem to curve when it's actually just hovering. That's Coriolis effect. Now, if Earth has this effect, then Earth is turning underneath the drone like the roundabout turns under the drone. And Earth turns underneath a hot air balloon like the roundabout turns under the drone. And Earth turns underneath an aeroplane like the roundabout turns under the drone. Because that's what Coriolis requires to happen for us to observe it, and they say Earth has Coriolis. So to have Coriolis on Earth, Earth is turning underneath hot air balloons. It just isn't.
What Tenth was saying, it would be 0.2 miles. It would have turned in 1 second.
Enough to miss the shot. That's the point.
Okay, I made my correction. It's in Master B. This is at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. The sniper, it's 460 meters per second, or converted to feet, 1,509 feet, 0.19, that he would have to aim in advance of the target, because that's where it would be by the time the bullet reaches.
It's a quarter of a mile out in 1 second.
Well, see, but that's not accounting for all their claims of motion either, because that's just describing the Earth's rotation, not its orbital paths or all the other motions they claim are happening.
Yeah, they're not part of the claim for Coriolis. As much as I don't want to compartmentalize their claim for them, that is how they have compartmentalized it. So, exclusive of the orbital motion around the sun and the motion of the sun around the great attractor, that isn't included in the claim of Coriolis on a globe. The only claim is that the globe exhibits Coriolis effect, which is the effect you observe as you turn beneath things not attached. That's what the effect is. So, while I agree, there is, and YouTube, shout out to him, would also be applauding you for pointing this out. The number of different velocities in different directions is absolutely obscene. But there we go. So you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you. They've got all sorts of different motions. But the claim is Coriolis effect. That would be the not actual deflection observed as you turn beneath on a non-inertial turning reference frame, and the observation is of something in the inertial reference frame. The effect is the not actual curve path it takes when it's not actually traveling in a curve, it's traveling straight, or in the case of my example, hovering, not moving at all, but looking like it curves towards you. That's the effect. It's only induced if you turn beneath, so Earth's claim to turn beneath. So when your son says, no, it's absurd, it's absurd because it isn't happening. It's the effect that's supposed to happen, though. That is Coriolis effect. That's what they claim the globe has. The fact that he can admit that it's absurd is because it isn't happening. Not because Coriolis effect's an absurd effect. You can observe it on a bloody roundabout. Just chuck a ball over the top of it. The ball travels straight, but because you're turning beneath it, the ball looks like it curves. That's the effect the globe's supposed to have. Don't turn around to me and say it's absurd, like Simon Dan did. Yeah, Simon Dan recognised how absurd it is and told me my reference frame's ruined, giving me examples of it not happening. It's like, yes, you observe it not happening, Dan. Yeah, well done. We recognise also that this effect that the globe is claimed to have, that would be Coriolis, is absurd. Doesn't happen. Don't point it out to me like I'm bloody claiming it should. It's a globe claim that doesn't happen. We don't have Coriolis on a turning Earth with things seeming to drift because we're turning beneath them. That's just what they claim would happen, and it doesn't.
Well, isn't the logic behind it is if you claim it's a globe, then this would be necessitated by that claim, right?
I don't know if that's the cause of the reason for making it as a claim, but it is most definitely a heliocentric claim. If I say to anybody, normie or anti-flat earth heretic, what's Coriolis? Instinctually, they'll immediately go to, it's a globe effect. Most people I've ever said that word to don't instinctually know that it's the effect observed from a turning reference frame of a projectile in the inertial reference frame seeming to curve. They think it's a globe effect. They don't know what it is. They think it's bloody water going down a drain, but they're just idiots in that regard. But they think the word Coriolis is synonymous with globe. It isn't.
Well, I was getting ready to... It would be if you were on a globe. That's a logical... it'd be a logically consistent thing that would happen on a sphere, is that you would be on a non-inertial turning reference frame, spinning beneath things not attached.
Nathan, can you go to the article? I'm sorry, John, go on.
But my point is that if you're claiming you're on a globe, that's not the only motion that you would have to account for.
If you can go to the website that I posted in Master B, click on it.
Okay.
All right, so this is one of many, but the 1.14 mile sniper shot, what did it take? If you scroll down, he talks about the rifle, the ammo, and the scope. So the rifle, the ammo, the scope. then the environmentals, the temperature, the altitude, the density, altitude, wind, distance, and Coriolis. Let's read this. In some of the sniper movies that I've seen, snipers adjust for something called Coriolis. In the sniper community, Coriolis is used to determine how far our target will move away from the intended aiming point due to Earth's rotation. Listen up. This was something that I did not take into account because the flight time of the bullet was only around 3.8 seconds. Well, we just found out a second is 1,509 feet. What's 3.8 times 1,509 feet? You didn't take that into account?
Yeah, he'd need to. But he's disclaiming that the Earth's supposed to have it as an effect, but it's only a few seconds in the air, so I don't need to account for it. So, like, okay, back to the doublespeak, because Neil deGrasse Tyson says that a football's game was thrown on account of the fact that the ball in the air for a couple of seconds had Earth turn beneath it to cause this apparent deflection observed from the stands. So when you saw the ball curve through the goal, it didn't really curve through the goal according to Neil deGrasse Tyson. The Earth turned beneath the ball, and you being attached to the Earth turning beneath the ball mean that you observed it seem to drift. It actually travelled straight, and the goalposts moved out the way of the straight path, seeming to be a curve from your position on the stands. That's what he's claiming. Well, that involves Earth turning beneath the ball. And this guy's saying, well, Earth does turn beneath my bullet, but I don't have to account for it. It's only in the air for a couple of seconds. Like, yeah, well, if Earth's turning at 1,000 miles an hour rim velocity at the equator, that's going to cause some massive effects for you to have to and need to account for, but you don't. But you've got to disclaim it, and then disclaim why you don't account for it. Or maybe like Neil's son, ask why we, or explain away why we don't experience it or feel it in any way. Or maybe like Simon Dan, tell me that my reference frames, actually the globe claim of Coriolis effect with two of them, are ruined. Because everybody, including anti-flat earth heretics and normies like Neil's son, don't observe the effect claimed the globe should have. We don't observe Coriolis effect on a globe, but it's claimed to have it. It is that simple.
Nathan, I took 1,509 feet, times it by 3.8. It comes to 5,734 feet. He would have to aim away from that target that he's showing you called the shot right under the Coriolis, where he hits the target. He's got to aim He's got to aim 5,734 feet in a different direction, assuming that's going to be there in 3.8 seconds.
But he doesn't. And likewise, if he did, that would mean he led the target because Earth turned under the bullet after it left the barrel of the gun. Well, then, once the aeroplane leaves the tarmac, we on the ground will, according to the globe, observe the Coriolis drift in the plane. Because we're turning underneath the plane to see it seem to curve as it travels in a straight path. Oh yeah, that plane looks like it's curving. And then Bill next to you says, oh, no, Nathan. That's us turning underneath the plane. It only looks like it's curving. It's Coriolis effect, induced by us turning beneath it. The lucky sods will arrive an hour and a half sooner than they would have done, with that assist of Earth turning beneath them, bringing the place they're travelling to them. That doesn't happen. Nobody observes it. In fact, when globers get this pointed out to them that that's what they's claimed to happen, they tell us we're wrong. And in the case of Simon Dan, tell us that our reference frames that we don't have are ruined. Like, wake up and smell the coffee, idiots. You're telling us how this effect isn't observable, we wouldn't feel it, it's not detectable, we don't need to account for it with our bullet, but yet it's simultaneously supposed to be observed always at every point and no location on Earth should not have it. It will always be in effect. It's just you'll tell us why would we expect to see it. The reference frames are ruined.
Can you imagine a defense lawyer like defending gang members for drive-by shootings? Say, no, they're innocent. It was a Coriolis. They meant to hit this target, but due to the Coriolis effect, that they did not account for, these innocent bystanders were hit.
Well, and they do claim Coriolis on rocket flights. That's, the parabolic arc that they seem to take from our perspective. They say that's because of Earth turn.
Oh, so Earth's turning beneath them, according to the rockets. So as Earth turned beneath, that rocket launched from Cape Canaveral, we're seeing a not actual curved path in the straight trajectory that rocket takes. All right, so Earth turned underneath the rocket then. So Earth also turned underneath the birds that it flew past? No. That simply doesn't happen because it would shorten flight times when travelling west. Hey, Adam. And hey, shout out to the 103 people or more, 115 people watching now. Wow. Yeah, massive shout out to all of you who shared the show. Please smash the share button if you've not done so already. And smash the super chat if you want to support this channel. Do we get a hey from Adam?
So you can see 2 times now, the globe defenders have to use something that's not real. In the first case, it was a theoretical, fictitious tangent plane at the center of the Earth. And one used the eye line. But there is one that we use. It's called the sea horizon. And then here, with Coriolis, they have to mention the word, but it doesn't exist because if we just saw what the guy who's a marksman, he didn't use it. He didn't adjust for 5,700 feet. And so, as Neil deGrasse Tyson says, Earth is turning underneath the football. Why didn't he adjust for the 5,700 feet? Look at the target. He hit it. He even tells you, if you go to the article where he says it's so small. Well, what was he aiming at? If the bullet wasn't going to get there for 3.8 seconds, he'd have to be aiming 5,700 feet away from the target, assuming where it was going to be. Doesn't exist.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
That don't exist either.
What is it? What's a phenomenon?
Bending of a pseudo-conceptual force space-time.
Yeah, that's the current, but
sounds like a phenomenon.
they pick up something at rest, let go, and say that's gravity.
Like a helium balloon.
Never gets old.
Yeah, they again, it's going to fall apart with the helium balloon.
All unsupported matter pulls to the center of the Earth.
Like a helium balloon.
Again,
Fall apart? No, it's going to ascend apart.
It's not pulled to the center of the Earth. That would be a force pulling it, right, Neil?
Listen, this is what I'm told in chat. All right, that just one helium balloon, that does not account for everything else that goes down. Everything in the world goes down. Don't you know that?
Like a
that's
helium balloon.
because it's medium related.
That's my point.
This thing on. Like a helium balloon? Or a cloud? Definitely something wrong with this sound.
Well, that's what I said. If that were the case, then clouds, we wouldn't have any clouds. They'd be sucked into wherever, but they wouldn't be right there.
I remember the old days shows in the 1700s where we used to say, where's this so-called gravity's strongest? Ground level would be the strongest. But helium balloon, clouds.
That's still Newtonian thinking based, though, which is, of course, the fundamental thinking model for the entire basis of heliocentrism, even though it's been denied to be the cause of anything. It's been denied as gravity officially, but it's still the entire mechanism that allows any kind of formula to balance out the idea of giant bodies of matter dangling around each other and moving in circles. It's the only thing.
The thing is Newtonian gravity isn't a non-inertial turning reference frame.
What?
Newtonian gravity relies on an inertial reference frame, Earth being an inertial reference frame.
Okay. I'll expand on that. I'm not picking up what you're putting down. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just tying it back to Coriolis, or axial rotation. You know, they're claiming the Earth's spinning, but for them to claim that there's a force pulling things down, they would have to deny the claim that it's spinning.
I see. Very
The way they do that, that in denying the claim it's spinning, they say that it's negligible.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I didn't adjust for Coriolis because the bullet took 3.8 seconds, 5,700 feet. You don't need to adjust for that. It's negligible.
Right.
Oh, and can you describe how you described the heavenly bodies dangling? What did you just say?
Yeah. Didn't you know that the entire heliocentric model had been emulated utilizing Newtonian mechanics for the setup, but they couldn't include Mercurius though. They had to render that one in separately, and they actually fell back on Einsteinian gravity, which is really bizarre. But the entire heliocentric model is all held together through Newtonian mechanics, even though that is officially outdated. It's just how it is, because you can't take that away from it and then say, oh, Newtonian or Einsteinian gravity, because it won't actually, it's still going to be Newtonian gravity no matter what, because that's just how it's been put together.
This is where my son inserts God. So he turns around and says, so you mean to tell me that God cannot do this? This is where they tie it in with the orbits and stuff like that.
What? God?
Tie it into God. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do a couple of quick shout outs. Just bear with me a second. So, Gene has a question, says, TikTok Globers will go live soon. Can you do a surprise pop-up? I just want to see them poop their pants. When they see your face, use a sock account. I might do things like that in the future, Gene. When I get my new computer, I'll have greater capabilities to do things like that. So yes, that's certainly on the cards. Not now though, but thank you very much for the super chat. And your pestering me about TikTok has not gone unnoticed, and it has made an impact. So I do appreciate it, and obviously the support as well. So thank you very much for the super chat. Also, Fresh75 says, hey, good people of Flat Earth, just showing support for my education of the nature of our planet from FED. Thanks, Nathan and panel. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
I'd like to comment on what Neil said, if I may. Unless, John, you want to go.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Neil if his son thinks Copernicus' principle is God. Is that what he meant?
Yes. It's divine.
The reason in the conversations that I've had with Christians on this subject matter, that's the last out, because reality says otherwise. Then they say, okay, but God could. Yeah, he could, but he didn't, because our reality shows us what God did.
Yeah, and it sounds like his God is Copernicus, not, the creator.
That was well said, Tenth. You're absolutely right.
All right, let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope. The presuppositions within their field makes it impossible to create any kind of viable hypothesis within their field.
Well, it's going to take time, because don't forget, we started out as rocks. So it's going to take a little time before we get to higher education and we can understand all these things.
Well, when Michelle Thaler gets a crushing defeat, she'll change her name to Sandy.
Oh, that was a double pun.
Nice. He
Any
was
evidence
without
of the-
sin throw the first cousin.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there. It's at 3 Arwinian unit distance.
Heliocentrism claims it's 93 million miles away.
So does my son. And it's plasma.
Wait, your son says it's plasma?
Where?
That's correct.
Why?
What's the location in Euclidean space?
Okay,
Neil,
we're not going to
sounds like
find
your
out, it
son's.
seems.
Neil, sounds like your son's been watching too many YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's what I think. He's
Well, that's
taking a
not-
little bit
Last
from
I heard he was a
everybody.
concaver. Is he a concaver now? What's the score there?
Well, he was, what do you call it when you believe in the lower earth? What is that called?
Hollow Earth.
Oh, Hollow
Hollow,
Earther. Oh, right. He sounds like a 2014 flat earther.
Yes, he's migrating.
Yeah, slowly
he's moving.
transitioning.
Well,
Yeah,
isn't
because-
that the?
Go ahead.
I was about to say, isn't that the way the mind works? You don't accept information that other people gives you unless it's authoritative in nature. So it takes your own thought to bring you to the correct conclusion. Like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Right, you
Right.
just need some time to let things sink, really, because you can't handle everything immediately. Nobody can.
Right.
Almost nobody.
I've had various
I think
different...
he has a love affair with the stars. He's really fascinated with the heavenly bodies, and he just don't want to come to terms with they're not balls in
They use
space.
that angle. So when I'm barking on about how magical the skies have become as a result of becoming a flat earther, the wonder that is not knowing, as opposed to what? What have you got as the alternative? Research bullshit stories? He might actually have some bearing on what the stars are discovered to be if he has that initial wonderment that's offered by an understanding that you don't know. And you've got to start that understanding that you don't know, which is kind of a contradiction in terms, by realizing where the lies are and what they are and who's told them to you. It sounds like he's on his way. One day he'll be telling you, like John describes, he'll come to the recognition on his own and start telling you about how magical all this stuff that he's figured out is after fighting with you for several years about it. And it'll really annoy you.
Didn't we start this at the pre-show today? The default reality through the educational system and the powers to be. So then when you are asked these questions, cognitive dissonance immediately hits you. And John's statement of you don't accept information unless it's authoritative is real important here, because if you've been conditioned by a default reality that's false, you know, you grew up, as Chocolate says, with the solar system hanging over your crib and all the way to educational system. And then all of a sudden someone challenges it. It's like, no. I could not have been such a sap to have been lied to like this. I'm smarter than that. I'm going to argue with you. I'm going to argue. And then, well, maybe it's this. Then I'm going to argue. Well, maybe it's that. Didn't you just contradict what your first maybe was? Yeah, but I'm working my way there because things don't seem right anymore because you got me thinking.
Solar system. When you said that, it just makes me cringe every time I hear that. The solar system.
It's the same. It's just a different title for the heliocentric model, isn't it? Solar,
Yeah.
sun system. That's what solar system means. Same as heliocentric. Sun at center, helios at the center. Solar system, sol, sun. Sun system.
Correct.
Right, because the planets go around the sun everywhere.
Yes.
No, they don't.
In their model, they do.
Well, they don't, as far as I'm concerned, because I can't see anything going around the sun. It's just nonsense. Oh, but we're at the
But you
we're at the
never
wrong
see
vantage point.
moons in front of the planets, according to NASA's claim, and amazing telescope views of
Neil, can you
moons
mute?
of planets going around them.
Sorry.
Try that again, Arwin.
I was just saying, I was really at the time kind of puzzled by people saying, but there's all these telescope observations of moons of planets within our solar system that really seem to sort of follow an orbit, right? This is all just celestially fractal to me, but that is there a sighting? Is that actually real, or has it all been trickery from the start? Does Paula know? She's like really into telescopes.
What's an orbit? If you want to describe some of the moons and their positional information presented via a telescope over time, and then reify that into the notion of objects falling around something at the center of a gravitational field, or well, or however the hell they describe it in current Einsteinian gravity. But if you want to reify that by way of an assumption after an observation of some lights in the sky, then that's where you get your orbital assumption from. But you started that whole premise with orbit.
Right. That's the heliocentric word to solidify the three-dimensional giant conception that they have.
It doesn't solidify, it just begs the question.
It's basically just a sort of circle, or a blip just moves in front of it. And this has been claimed to be seen on telescopes. I don't really know. I don't know for sure if that's actually real, if like people that weren't in on the game have actually just seen that. I'm not sure.
Shout out to Unitox Femo or Sasha. It says, maybe water doesn't want to curve, whatever we say.
No, at least Sasha's leveling with us.
It's water at rest, though, isn't it? I shouldn't really be hyper-specific with the super chatter. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sasha. Water at rest finds its level. That's the statement. A lot of people don't caveat that statement. Water's flat. No. If it was, how'd you pour it into your glass to drink it? How did it make its way down your throat? No. Water at rest will find it and maintain level. But that's water at rest. Is the sea at rest? No.
Right. Water level at rest means air above, water below, a flat separation when still. That's it.
Yeah, as in the tool, a level. That's a water level. It's a device that utilizes the fact that water at rest will find and maintain its level. Well, not water at rest will find and maintain level. Water will find and maintain its level. Water at rest is flat. Any evidence
But
for self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth? I'll get in there.
I still wanted an answer from you guys. Like, any of you, have you actually ever watched a telescope through a telescope and seen like a moon in front of an alleged planet yourself? Have you ever actually
watched a telescope through a telescope? No.
What? No, that's not what I said.
It is.
You know what I mean? Just
I've watched
we've seen
the
videos,
moons at Saturn,
videos, but
Here we go. Now he's giving you my example that you obviously didn't pay attention to earlier. Go ahead, Adam.
I've watched the moons, it was a Jupiter actually, through my P900, and I've watched the relative positions of the lights we call the moons change in relation to Jupiter. That's all I've ever seen. Whether they cross each other's path, whether I would define that as an orbit, no. I've never seen an orbit. Same with the sun. I've only ever seen the sun come across my sky and disappear into the distance. I've never seen anything orbit it. But I say with Jupiter, some people may describe the slight variations in the movements of those moonlights around it as an orbit, but from what I observed, I wouldn't be able to say that that thing was falling around the other.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button after the fact, hit the PayPal button, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. Shout out to Chronicles of the Unconvinced, who says, radial gates because water won't bend. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show.